Siomra Beag.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Tiny Room. Welcome back to On Siomra Beag. Welcome back to the socially distant and very safe digital Siomra Beag. I am the titular Michael of Michaelandbenjaminspodcast, and I am joined by the man whose entire life and being has been based around becoming an Irish version of Jensen Ackles. It's Benjamin Dean O. Winchester Colopy.
Mickey!
Oh, yeah, no, Mickey's a fat 12-year-old Ben.
No, that's you.
Oh,
Mickey! Mickey!
Very good.
Mickey, it's you and me, Mickey.
Damn
Till
it,
the end of
Ben.
the line.
Damn it, Ben. We can't do this. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get back and save those kids.
Mickey, I ain't giving up. I ain't giving up, Mickey.
It's time to go, Ben. This is gonna be very tiresome. Benjamin, why don't you just throw your mind back to 3 years ago when I showed up unannounced at your college dorm room and dragged you away from your normal life and your lovely girlfriend back into the grim and gritty world of podcasting, and remember the sound that played that very evening.
Yeah, it went a little something like this.
Very good, Benjamin. Now, if all has gone well, Benjamin, I have replaced our usual theme music with the opening sound from Supernatural. There's a good chance I've forgotten. The listeners will have to tell us.
And we've been copyright struck off the face of the earth by CW's impressive litigation crew.
Yeah, I mean, if you just heard silence, you'll know that someone has copyright struck the music I added out.
Smacked us round.
Yeah.
With a little...
Benjamin, that was one of our least subtle ever introductions to the topic of what this topic of this week's topic is going to be. But Benjamin,
no real inside joke there.
No. We're just talking about Supernatural, Ben, because it's been on forever. But before we do that, why don't we look at the week's news?
Yes, let's have a look at that, Michael. A little bit of sad news to start the week this week, Michael.
Yes.
But the legendary Darth Vader bodybuilder suit filler, David Prowse, has passed away.
Oh, how very sad, Benjamin.
Yes.
Benjamin, did he have, as we say, both culturally and on the podcast, a good innings?
Yes, he was 85 years old, Michael, which to me is a good innings.
A decent innings.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think that's significant.
Ben, is it true that David Prowse was disappointed when he found out they weren't going to use his voice for Darth Vader, or is that an urban legend?
Yeah, so I think that's a bit apocryphal, Michael. I think it's a very good bit of apocryphy, but I don't think it's actually factual, because he turned up at all the cons and stuff, and continued to interact with other cast members and things like that. So there certainly wasn't any bad blood. He may have been mildly disappointed on the day when he went to the cinema and he was like, "That's not my voice."
Yeah, like you were when you found out that we were redubbing you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's really, really weird that Brendan Fraser wants to be me on our syndicated podcast that airs outside of Ireland.
That'd be great. That'd be great if they just redubbed all of your bits and left my bits on. Oh, that would satisfy my ego deliciously. Benjamin, it's been a bit of a week for Star Wars. Have you been watching The Mandalorian, Ben?
I haven't seen the latest episodes, so please don't spoil it for me.
I won't spoil the latest episodes, Ben. Don't worry, I'm not going to. What I was going to say is, Ben, I'm really enjoying your kind of off-teal cable knit sweater. You look like the Inishman Mandalorian Mon Calamari that has famously become the breakout star of this season.
Isn't that bizarre? That's so strange. People are like, I like that knitwear pattern.
In episode 3, Ben, they went to Space Donegal.
Space Donegal, and they put a spaceship back together with fishnets and rigging.
Yeah. And Ben, throw fishnets on anything, and I find it sexy. So, that spaceship really did it for me.
Fuck's sake. That was awkward for your poor partner to walk in on.
Bloody God.
That was awkward.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
She watches The Mandalorian with me. She thinks it's very good, but very tense and too anxious for her.
I mean, fair.
She's always worried about the small baby Yoda fella.
The wee baby Yoda.
Yeah, she's like, he's getting in a scrape this week. I hope he doesn't get hurt or injured.
I hope he doesn't eat the offspring of that nice frog lady.
Maybe he's a bit of a bad egg. Benjamin.
Very good.
See what I've done. There was other kind of semi-Star Wars news. Did you see Boss Logic, good friend of the podcast, Ben, Boss Logic? Did you see his poster for Luke Skywalker appearing in season 3 of The Mandalorian?
I did not.
It's very good, Ben. Good. He has fan cast Sebastian Stan as a slightly older but still youthful Luke Skywalker.
Well, look at that now.
Isn't that very good, Benjamin? It's very good. Have you ever noticed before how much Sebastian Stan and Mark Hamill look alike?
I haven't, but apparently that's excellent fan casting.
They've got a very similar head.
Very similar head on that pair.
Yeah, very similar head on the pair.
Similar pair of heads over there.
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So I think that's a great bit of casting. And, you know, both Mark Hamill is a great actor. I've yet to see anything spectacular from Sebastian Stan, but that doesn't matter because Luke Skywalker is a complete blank. So, I mean, there's no doubt that Sebastian Stan could do it.
Well, that's the end of this podcast there now. You've just besmirched. Do you know what? I think Star Wars got so lucky that Mark Hamill is so great.
Go on.
Because that character would not have held up without the deep, deep love that people have for Mark Hamill over Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think anybody cares that much about Luke Skywalker, especially in the original trilogy. And that's kind of the point. He's kind of like the Ken doll of the entire series that you can kind of just...
Well, he's a blank slate that you can project yourself onto, isn't he, Ben? Isn't he, Ben?
Yeah.
Like Dean Winchester was for you.
Or Mick is in this podcast.
Yeah,
Enjoy
exactly.
my witty hot takes.
Yeah, I'm the kind of everyman character. I'm the point of view character for the listeners.
Yeah, the one who rolls his eyes when I say the word tropes too many times.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I haven't a clue. You have to keep explaining it to me. I'm like Ellen Page in Inception. But what do you mean we're in a podcast?
But yeah, I mean, without Mark Hamill, that character would not have survived because everyone's just like, "Oh, Mark,
he's blank.
Oh, Mark,
he's an absolute blank."
Mark's great though. Love
Mark's
Mark.
great. Everyone loves Mark.
Mark, if you want to be on the podcast, there's a seat there, buddy.
He probably would. It's a social distance seat.
He probably would. He's a good lad.
Yeah, he's
a good lad.
Benjamin, what other news?
Another little bit of news, Michael, in the poor long-running saga of Mr. Jonathan Depp.
Oh yes, is that his real name, Ben?
I don't know.
Okay, you carry on and I'll find out if it is.
I just like using people's full names sometimes.
Yes, and that's... Go on.
Michael, in this particular case, one Mr. Mads Mikkelsen, that is his real name.
No, I think it's Madathan.
One Mr. Madathan Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
It's gotten very off the rails now. Is going to replace him as Grindelwald in The Crimes of Grindelwald sequel, which is, I don't know. Warner Brothers seems content to keep throwing money down that particular pit.
It's no use.
And they've decided to recast him and use Mads Mikkelsen. Now, do I think Mads Mikkelsen is going to do a great job in that role? Yeah, he's just got a villain's face. He's got a big old villain face.
One of my greatest disappointments, Ben, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the wasting of Mads Mikkelsen and Caecilius.
Yeah, that was a real goddamn... Do you know what would have been great, Michael? Do you know what
Dr.
would have
Doom.
really tied the room together there?
Dr. Doom.
It would have been great as Dr. Doom, numero uno. Yeah. Or secondly, if they had have put Dormammu inside a human host and then upgraded Caecilius to a kind of a Dormammu host. And well, that would have been interesting.
That could yet happen, Ben. That could yet happen in Doctor Strange 3. Doctor Strange on the Here's Caecilius, he's back.
here's Caecilius. Ah, look, there's your man Caecilius again there.
He's back, but now he's Dormammu. Benjamin, the only better choice for Doctor Doom than Mads Mikkelsen, I feel, would be the television and film actor Julian McMahon.
Oh, he'd be great, wouldn't he?
No! I hate him! Get rid of him then! He's the only bigger plank than Sebastian Stan. I don't want to see him in anything. I forgot to have a go at him last week when we were talking about what was it? What were we talking about? Charmed. I forgot to have a go at him, and it really upset me all week that I didn't have a go at Julian McMahon.
Julian McMahon is bloody odd, isn't he? The fact that he got any acting jobs.
He's just a handsome, useless plank. He's like the Sebastian Stan of television.
He's the Ken doll of television series. Yeah, he was bizarre. That was such a weird subplot as well. Oh, I love this man who's actually a demon and corrupting my entire life. Ooh.
Yeah, well, that's pretty common, isn't it? That's Angel. That's what's his name from Charmed.
Yeah, but he was genuinely out to get her.
But he was sexy Julian McMahon. He was from Nip Tuck, Ben. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't actually. I never bothered.
No, it's no use. It's got Julian McMahon in it, which, as you know, is not something I'm into.
Never been into it.
He was no good in The Runaways.
Yeah.
Imagine being in The Runaways and being the not good thing about it.
As you know, Michael, I didn't watch The Runaways because I just don't touch that stuff.
No use for you. Benjamin, I've still been watching Hellstrom.
Oh,
and I tell you what, it's still good. It's still a well-made television show. It has notes and overtones of the show that we're dedicating this episode to. There's a good There's a good bit of supernatural in it, but a lot more gruesome. It's really gone...
Well, that is good.
Do you remember a few weeks ago I complained that it was kind of low on special effects and it kind of implied things rather than showed them?
Yes.
It stopped doing that now.
Oh, that's bloody good, isn't it?
Yeah, now there's all sorts of half a body and blood coming out and grossness.
Now, do you think...
Yes,
I'm giving you a lot of credit here.
I'll try not to, Ben.
That they gave the podcast a listen and went, actually, that's not bad. Let's go back and insert some bloody scenes in.
I'd like to think that, Ben, but no, because it was all released 10 weeks ago.
Wait, see, I think I am of the opinion, Michael, that you are probably one of the only people that has watched Hulu's Hellstrom.
I haven't watched it all, Ben.
And so you could possibly be considered a co-producer, and that it is, in fact, your influence that has made the show a little bit gorier.
Executive co-producer.
Executive co-producer. Not unlike a title on this very here podcast.
Exactly, Benjamin. Benjamin, yes, I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever to the next Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, that's where we
Who
started
cares?
this one.
Who cares? I don't care. Do you care? I certainly don't care.
I don't care, Michael. I think there's a little bit of a rumbling in the hardcore Crimes of Grindelwald community. There's all 6 of them.
Yeah, well, screw those guys. I'm content to say they can suck an egg.
A lot of them have said, why not get Colin Farrell back? And I think Colin Farrell went, no thanks.
Yeah, I don't think he's available.
I think that's why Colin Farrell's not coming back. I think he was just like, no, do you know what? You're grand.
There's no use.
We're grand.
Benjamin,
okay.
His name is John Depp. John Christopher Depp.
That's depressing, isn't it?
It's
Jonathan
very
would be better.
boring. Yeah, Jonathan Depp would be much better.
Yeah,
Mads
Jonathan
Mikkelsen's
Depp
name is Madathan Mikkelsen, though.
Madathan?
Yeah, Madathan. Like Jonathan, but starting with Mad.
As in Madison with a lisp?
No, very good, very amusing. Benjamin, is that all the news? I don't think there's any more news.
Oh, I don't know. No, that's it, Michael. It's been a quiet L week. We haven't had much.
No, there's not
but
much
that's
going
okay,
on, is there,
Michael.
Benjamin? Monster Hunter has been moved up, if anyone cares. It's
What's that?
release with Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
Jovovich.
There's murder about that, though, isn't there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, a young lady. The director's under a lot of fire at the minute.
For what?
Because he compromises the safety of all his stunt workers. Somebody died on that film, I think.
Really? Paul
Or
W.S.
on
Anderson?
Or on his... No, wait, hang on. Hang on. I have this mixed up somewhere. Hold on.
I think you do, Ben. I don't know. Is this something you're going to have to cut out while you do your research?
No, you just spin your wheels there and tell me a little bit about Monster Hunter with Mila Jovovich.
Monster Hunter, Ben, it's based on a Japanese series of video games about hunting monsters, and now it has Mila Jovovich in another Mila Jovovich film produced and directed by her husband, Paul W.S. Anderson. So it's in the ilk of Resident Evil, any of the other ones with Mila Jovovich in it, and based on video games.
Yeah, no, I think... Hang on.
It looks fine. It looks like your traditional kind of low budget January release science fiction supernatural film.
But it's really interesting because it's Marines in a Japanese video game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they always do that, don't they? They have to make it more American.
Yeah.
So it's people from the real world Marines getting transferred into the Monster Hunter world.
Yeah, it's not great.
Who cares? I'll see it once and then instantly forget about it.
Yeah, no, I can't find that now, but I did read a thing about the fact that her husband compromises the safety of a lot of stunt workers. He's kind of his name is not well spoken of in
stunt circles. Are you sure?
In stunt circles, yeah. Hang on,
you're not thinking about Michael Bay, Benjamin? I don't know if this is the time or the place to research this. We can look it up and talk about it next week.
I'll do it again next week. I'll talk about it. I'll make a note of it and I'll talk about it next week.
Because
we have stuff to talk about, Michael.
Or do a Ben's retraction next week, whichever one it is.
It's probably the latter. But you look, what's life without a little mystery, huh?
Yeah, exactly, Ben.
Speaking of, oh, that was good.
Speaking of, Ben.
Good. So, as ham-fisted as our intro was, I'm sure that's given the listeners some idea of what we're doing.
Yeah. We're talking about
this
the show
very
Supernatural.
2 weeks ago, Michael, had I not mucked up the running order of episodes that we have on our little calendar, we would have been talking about the finale of Supernatural.
Yeah, but you mucked it up, Ben.
But I did mug it up. I gave it a good old mucking. But you know what, Michael?
Yeah.
I've had time to reflect upon it.
Yeah.
And I've thought, now that it's been 2 weeks, people
that gave
have all
us
seen it.
Yeah,
so we can talk about it now.
Gave us time to breathe.
And Michael, I'd love to say that was intentional, but you know me too well to know that anything I do is not intentional, and it's usually just serendipity.
Yeah, you just mucked it up.
Yeah, I mucked it up almost like something else. So, Michael,
Yes.
have you watched the double episode finale of Supernatural?
No, Benjamin, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I skimmed the penultimate and watched the ultimate. Because the penultimate episode, Ben, I had not the faintest idea what was going on.
It was very hard to know what was going on, Michael.
Ben, there were no characters in it that I knew, except Castiel. I know him.
Castiel wasn't in the penultimate episode. Get out of here.
Was Castiel not in the penultimate episode?
No, he was in the 18th episode.
He was in the 18th episode. So, is that a double episode?
Yeah, I think that's more a double episode.
Okay,
yeah.
That's the one I skimmed then. The one I properly watched, Ben, is the one which is after the fact. It's nothing to do with the plot of the series.
Yeah.
It's just the capper. That's the one I fully watched. The other one I didn't care for. The actual ending about fixing heaven and whatnot. Get out of here.
Yeah, not great.
Well, I don't know if it was great or not, but I haven't watched Supernatural regularly, Ben, in 5 years.
Nor have I, Michael. Nor have I. So we're both on even footing on this little gig here.
On this little adventure.
Michael, 15 bloody years.
It's a long time, Benjamin.
15 year-arinos.
Yeah, it's very long.
Yeah, it's no like that's a significant chunk of my life.
Yeah, half, Ben.
Half.
Yeah.
To be precise. So I was 15 when it started coming out. And Michael, this series kind of along the way moved from a bit of a spooky horror two brothers up against the supernatural, and it's no good.
Where's their dad, Dean?
Where's their dad? Drunk in a bar. No good. So it went from that to kind of a B-movie slasher love letter thing. It turned into a very different series over the 15 years, Michael, as one would expect.
Yes,
from
15
a
years, Ben.
show.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and they started broadening out their cast of characters, Michael, and it became known among its diehard fans, and I make this joke quite a bit, Michael, about diehard fan groups, but Supernatural really does have a core of burning white-hot passion. Grab your pitchforks if anybody says anything against Castiel or Dean, or like they're into it, man.
Sam is fair game, though. No one likes Sam.
Sam is fair game. Nobody gives a fuck about Sam.
Yeah.
So as it went on, it kind of broadened out its cast of characters, and we got a lot of LGBTQ plus representation. We got a lot of strong female representation. We got a lot of people of color representation, and the show is really going from strength to strength in terms, if not in terms of plot and overall narrative, then definitely in terms of fun moments and inclusivity.
Go on.
And then,
yeah,
3 episodes from the end of the entire series,
yeah,
they just went, oh, you see all those people of color? See all those strong women? See all those LGBTQ representatives? Just kill them, will you? Just get rid of them.
Right, go on.
Just turf that out of there.
Go on. Go on.
So they did that, Michael. All of those inclusive, broad, varied characters are kind of, if not fridged, then buried.
Oh, good.
As they go along.
Well, at least, Ben, there are still 3 white men to save the day.
I mean, that's the most important part, Michael, isn't it? That's the most important.
Well, I mean, I do get your point, and obviously, you know, I don't really have a horse in this race, Ben, because I haven't been following the development of it. But you could argue that wasn't intentional. It was a throwback. It was a circling around to where the series began and focusing on the 2 main characters, the Winchester brothers.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you at all there, Michael. I think the only way to end that series would be to come back to the 2 brothers and they have a strong bond. And I think that was important.
And a car.
But I think this is a case of severe fan remorse, whereupon they've invested in a bunch of characters and they don't get necessarily to see a satisfying end for all the characters that they've grown to love.
Now, Benjamin, I'm not following you here, I have to admit. What characters are you talking about? We can do spoilers because it's 2 weeks
We can
out.
do spoilers. So, I suppose the biggest controversy, Michael, is Castiel.
Okay.
And throughout Supernatural's long 15 years, Michael, and it's a long time. It's a long time.
15 years, a decade and a half of your life, Ben.
Half of my life, Michael.
Yeah.
And the show has been accused at various times of queer baiting.
Right, go on.
Whereupon they kind of tease perhaps a homosexual relationship here or there, and it never really comes to fruition.
Okay.
Or, Michael,
Yes.
they've downright kind of underplayed it and pushed it away. But there's a rabid community of Destiellers.
Yes.
And the Destiellers want to see Dean and Castiel.
Gas.
They want to see those two get it on.
Yeah, I bet you they do.
In freaky deaky, passionate white love.
Yeah.
And it's always been hinted at that Castiel perhaps has very strong feelings for one Mr. Dean Winchester.
Okay. Bloody, why wouldn't you, Ben?
And I mean, look at him. What a smouldering beefcake of a man.
Gas.
I mean, I hear that name at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's going to do things.
All right,
do things, Michael.
All right, yeah, let's not get too deep into it, Ben.
So anyway.
You keep your cool.
Anyway, it's too late. I'm flustered. So, anywho, there's a scene in episode 18, which is skimmed.
Yeah.
Whereupon the void, the empty requires a sacrifice.
Yeah, it has to be.
And Castiel steps up to plate, and his final words to old Dean are, "I love you."
Mm-hmm.
To which Dean kind of goes, "Yeah, great."
Yeah, I know.
And this was kind of a gut punch for a lot of people who were expecting their big moment. You know, their big reveal that the two of them have deep-seated feelings for one another. But
Dean's
then,
not gay, though, Ben.
Huh?
Dean's not gay.
He could be bi.
He isn't, though.
He could be bi. The whole hope of the show is that he was secretly gay the whole time. The Destiellers wanted blood.
Okay.
Anyway, one of the big controversies, Michael, is that in a Spanish dub...
I've seen this, yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dean says, "I know, I love you too."
Well, not exactly, but yeah, sure.
In and around that.
Yeah,
and it's "and I you." That's the line, isn't it? "And I you." And everybody went, "Oh my God, there was a secret ending where they professed their love and CW pulled the plug on it." And that's not it at all. And then poor Misha Collins, who plays Castiel, came out and he was like, "There's no conspiracy. It's not." And the Destiel fans came for him. They turned on him quick.
Oh yeah, they turned on Misha Collins. Benjamin,
they turned on him quick.
Here's the thing, though. Even if Dean had confessed had said to Castiel, "I love you too," it doesn't mean romantic. They've been through so much together. They've been through so much.
I think the other thing, Michael, is...
Are you telling me that Dominic Toretto didn't love whatever Paul Walker's character's name was?
Yeah, but they got it on the shower scene, in fact, in the 6 that's on the deleted track.
But you know what I mean? Male characters are always telling each other they love each other. It doesn't necessarily mean romantic. Now, I have to say, I haven't followed the show enough to say, but was it definitely, and this may well get us in trouble from the very fact that I'm asking this rather than just accepting it, but was Castiel's admittance of love to Dean a romantic love or a we've been through so much together love?
It's never been confirmed, Michael. It's
Okay.
never... I personally would see it as a show that has always kind of championed the bond of brotherhood and close friends and things like that, is simply expressing what people have wanted to hear in a non-romantic way. It's like, hey, do you remember that time we stopped the apocalypse 6 times in a row?
6 times. Yeah.
And you and I have died multiple times, and we've lost each other and grieved several times over. Remember that? Remember when you became God for a wet minute? Remember that?
That was fun. Yeah, and the devil. You were the devil too for a while.
That's quite a bit of experience there between the pair of us.
Yeah.
God, we got through it all together. Do you know what? I love you.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice.
Huh.
And I don't see anything wrong with that, but the Destiellers were having none of it.
Ben, you need to stay off that Reddit.
And then the hindrance, I suppose, or the real kick in the teeth for people, Michael, was in the ultimate episode, the final where Dean goes to heaven and he doesn't meet Cass again.
Yeah. So apparently, Ben. So the last episode, Ben, is a very interesting last episode. It reminded me of many a long-running sci-fi or genre TV show have a last episode that functions as a capstone, and they actually resolve the plot in the previous episode, and then just have a maudlin, schmaltzy one-off wrapping it all up. Star Trek The Next Generation did it, although Star Trek The Next Generation, Ben, famously wasn't that wasn't that serialized, so it might not be a great example. Star Trek no, god damn it, what am I saying? Stargate SG-1 did it. They resolved the plot, and then they had all of the main cast got stuck on a ship for decades together episode.
What?
And then they managed to time travel out of it. But
good.
We got to see them live their lives out happily together.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
You know what I mean? That kind of classic capstone episode. And that's what this is, Ben. It's nothing to do with the series, really.
No.
You could watch the first episode of Supernatural, Ben, and then watch the last episode of Supernatural. And other than not knowing who Bobby was, they would make sense together.
Yeah. That's true. That's true, Michael.
And I'll tell you how I know that, Ben, because I did that.
Oh, very good, Michael.
I watched the pilot,
Very good.
I watched the pilot, and then I watched the capstone episode, and it made perfect sense.
Look at you.
The only thing that didn't make sense, Ben, was the overuse of the song Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas.
Yeah, they finally stuck that in there at the end, but then they did a weird gospel version of it right at the end, which was...
Was the female version, Ben, was that from episode 200? Was that the one that the choir sing?
Oh, I think it could be, but I wouldn't know, Michael.
I'm not going to commit to saying that.
Yeah, I'm not going to commit to saying that, but that sounds like a solid fan theory there.
I quite liked the last episode, but it's weird. There's a lot to discuss about it, I feel, Ben, on a podcast.
Yeah, if only we had one.
Well, let's just talk about it now. And
wait.
We'll just talk about it now. Okay. First of all, Ben, Dean. Damn it, Dean. Dean dies a senseless, meaningless death to, I think, purposefully, a nobody, a random vampire with a mask on in a random barn. No great world-ending sacrifice.
Nope. And
it happens rescuing two kids who look very like a young Dean and Sam.
They do, don't they?
There's
a hint of the Winchesters about them.
There's a hint of the Winchesters about those boys. So, yeah, I mean, how did you feel about the meaninglessness of his death?
So, here's the thing, Michael. I'm a hardcore seasons 1 to 5 guy.
Yeah, I know.
And the reason I'm a hardcore seasons...
You mean hardcore in a pornographic sense?
Yeah, in a pornographic sense.
Yeah.
I was on that Destiel train long before anybody else was.
I've seen your fan art.
You've seen it, Michael. You've seen my DeviantArt page littered with Jensen Ackles abs. And Michael, I think it's a very fitting Hunter's end. One of my favorite things about the original Supernatural run was that it takes place in backroad America.
Yeah, but in somewhat of the real world as well.
Yeah, there's a touch of the real world. Sometimes they go to big cities, but like one of the big lines early on in Supernatural is that we don't go near big cities. Now that was for a budgetary reason, but it also made sense from we hunt things for a living and leave a lot of corpses in our wake. That was good, and you used to have sometimes the tension of, maybe a police officer. That's not so good. That's not good for us.
I mean, that happens in the pilot. A large part of the pilot is about how are they dealing with getting around police who are interested in the same things as them, and that whole side of the show is completely gone by episode 7 or 8. Season
wiped
7
completely.
Or 8.
Yeah,
like they're doing massive world-changing things, and no one's even investigating it.
No one's even batting an eyelid anymore. It's all good. We're good. Don't worry about it. And so in that way, it's a great full circle back to two lads taking out random threats in the world
small
and doing
vampires.
it quietly. Like they're not in it for the big rep win. They're in it to make small town America feel safe. And that'll get me in trouble somewhere. But
yeah. But Ben, why didn't Sammy just call an ambulance? Because he was impaled on that spike for like a good 15 minutes. He's like, no, Sammy, I'm going to die, Sammy. And Sammy's like, no, Dean, I don't want to leave you. Don't leave him. You have a mobile phone. Call an ambulance.
That was a 10-minute speech.
It was a 10-minute speech, Ben. And he was perfectly cogent throughout the 10 minutes. That is an eminently survivable impaling.
He was clear, he was clear-minded.
He was totally fine.
He was like, fine.
This hurts, Sammy. There's a thing in me, Sammy. Leave me here. Let me die.
Oh, Sammy.
Just call an ambulance. I can call an ambulance. They'll get here.
No,
They'll
Sammy.
stabilize
No.
you.
No,
I mean,
Sammy.
this is the most survivable thing we've ever been involved in. It's funny, Ben. There's an episode from season 1. I think it's season 1, episode 12, called Faith.
Okay. Oh, it's about the faith healers, is it?
It's about the Faith healers, Ben. It's a very
Yeah.
good episode. It guest stars Angel's Julie Benz.
Get out of town.
It does indeed, Ben.
Old
And,
J Benz.
It starts, funnily enough, very similarly. It's about the Winchester boys rescuing a couple of young boys who've been kidnapped by some sort of demon. And in it, Dean is fighting the demon and he suffers a mortal wound.
Oh, no, Dean.
Yeah. So he has a massive heart attack.
Oh, shite, Dean.
And Sammy takes him to the hospital, which is the
what?
reasonable thing to do. He doesn't just leave him impaled on a spike in a barn. So he
I mean, it
takes
makes
him,
sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He takes him to the hospital and he receives treatment. And he's told he's got a couple of weeks to live because his heart is ruined. And Sammy's like, "Damn it, Dean, I'm not gonna let you die. I'm gonna get you a healer. And then he gets him healed in a single episode. And that was a worse thing that happened than what kills him in the finale.
Yeah. He's like, it's very preventable, Michael.
Absolutely survivable. One of the
That
most
death.
survivable injuries they've ever received.
Yeah. Yeah. Fitting, but very drawn out and a bit silly.
Yeah.
I think I loved the anonymity. Like I said, I love the anonymity of it. I love the fact that it ends the way it began. I think
Two brothers.
I think the Sam depression scene is very good. The having to go on a hunt without his brother. And, you know, I thought that was well done. What I cannot forgive in that episode, Michael, is old Sam.
It's one of the worst wigs in television history.
One of the worst wigs in television history.
It's
There
like
are
he's doing a Rick Sanchez cosplay.
There are two moments of old Sam, one behind the wheel of the Impala,
Yeah. Baby.
and it's just the worst. They don't even give him wrinkles. They
No.
just put a grey wig on his head,
Yeah.
and it looks fake.
It's
It
ridiculous.
looks like a thing you'd buy in the pound shop here in
Mhm.
Dublin. And then they do old Sam on his deathbed at home
Yeah.
with his son, Dean.
His son Dean.
And again, they've taken some talcum powder, they've put it on the same wig to make it just a little bit whiter, and they've given him a little bit of grey face makeup stubble.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
some glasses. Because that's how
Absolutely
you
brilliant.
know someone's
Yeah.
old.
It's absolutely
Pair of
brilliant. Ben.
glasses. I will never forgive that. I was sitting there going, no, surely not.
Yeah, brilliant.
Surely
absolutely,
not.
Absolutely brilliant. So apparently, Ben, a lot of the reason that the other actors weren't available was COVID.
Ah, well, I mean, that makes sense, doesn't
So
it?
Castiel wasn't in the last episode because of COVID, and they weren't able to bring back Ma and Pa Winchester because of COVID.
That's a
Rufus, yeah. So that's why everyone just kind of got referenced, and it was Sam, Dean, and Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby was good. It was good to get Bobby back, because he was the heart and soul for a long old time.
Yeah. Still, I can't get over the fact that they named the main character after the executive producer.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's weird. It's such a weird thing to
weird.
do. It's like naming your podcast after yourselves. Benjamin, so yeah, the last episode, I felt that it was great that they finally played the song Wayward Son by Candace in its entirety.
Yeah, that was good.
But then undermined by playing it again straight after another version. What
In
a weird thing to do.
Yeah, in a possibly less good version.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
What a weird thing to do.
Yeah, I thought that kind of dampened the squib a touch as well.
The most emotional moment for me, Ben, was when at the end, they thanked us for watching for so long. And I was like, oh, sure, boys. I sure enjoyed all
No
the
problem.
seasons. Yeah, definitely.
Been with you all the way, butteroo.
Yeah.
We hadn't. But sure, look, one of the things, Michael, that I felt was very messy about the penultimate episode was the speed. They just race through an empty planet, and they bring back these huge characters for 5/8 of a second, which I found really unusual for
Who
a
did they bring back,
very
Ben?
hurried MacGuffining. So we got Michael, the Archangel Michael,
Oh, yeah.
who was actually
name.
Sam and Dean's half brother.
Yeah.
Manifested by an archangel. They brought back Lucifer, who was a real fan favorite. Like, that guy did a great job
He was
of
good.
embodying a snarky little shit of a Lucifer.
Mm.
And they brought them back, and he steals the scene for the 10 minutes he's on screen are great. He's just a real little shit stirrer of a human being. My favourite bit, Michael, is the bit where he's like, "You're a cook. You're a cook." And he just looks at him like, "Oh, Michael, little bitch boy." And it's real weird. He just takes up, but then he's gone. They just get rid of him again.
Oh.
And Michael,
Yes.
to quote my brand new tattoo that's stapled across my chest, "You mucked it up, you cookie fuck." Like,
Well,
he's a great character.
Yeah.
And he should have been more central to the end of it. Wouldn't it be great, Michael, if you took a real fan favourite and put him on board? Because nobody cared about Michael that much. He wasn't a fan favourite.
No one
didn't
cared
really
about
have that much energy. Bit of a Ken doll, Michael.
I tell you what, Ben.
Yeah.
I don't really like to put myself in a position of saying to a TV show what they should have done. So
Yeah, that's fair.
rather than complain about that, I went back, Ben, and I watched some of the highlights.
Oh, that's good.
I picked some random great episodes, Ben.
That's good.
Based on a combination of memory and the internet telling me which greats I'd missed. And I have to tell you, Ben, have you seen the Scooby-Doo episode?
I have.
What? How? What confluence of cosmic events led to the creation of that masterpiece of television?
Isn't it great?
It is the single maddest thing to ever exist. It's an hour-long Scooby-Doo animated movie.
Yep.
Starring the Winchester brothers.
That's what it is.
It's fully animated. Like, there's a top and tails of non-animated scenes. But
Yeah, but you need your top and tails.
it's absolutely incredible. I was watching it going, this is great. This is absolutely brilliant. I don't know what happens in season 16, so I don't know how it fits into the overall plot. It clearly doesn't, actually. It doesn't matter. It's a standalone episode. So you could watch it only having seen a few episodes of Supernatural and still enjoy it. But my overriding feeling the whole time was, how does this exist? What a glorious world we live in that this has existed.
Yeah,
This has
it's
come
a
to
thing.
be. It's absolutely brilliant.
Daphne has the hots for bloody Dean. It's real interesting.
No,
Like,
she
there's a whole-
she very much doesn't.
Wait, hang on. Which character do I have? mixed up
Velma
there?
has the hots for Sam.
That's it.
And Ben, I mean, Dean is a terrible person.
He's not
he's-
a good person.
He's an absolute fucking predator.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just after Daphne the whole time.
Yep. That was
And-
it. Sorry, I had it mixed
Yeah,
up.
yeah. He's just like constant pursuit of Daphne. And Daphne is obviously this innocent versional cartoon character, and he does not give a shit.
Yeah.
He is an absolute sexual predator. And you know what the funny thing was, Ben? I watched that finale. I watched
Yeah.
the Scooby-Doo episode, and I watched the pilot. And the very first thing Dean does in the pilot is try to chat up Sam's girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
He is a fucking predator. Get
Yeah.
him out of here. He is a
Yeah.
bad bloke.
They kind of wind that down as the seasons go on.
Right.
But it made a weird return in season 16 because initially that's what he is. He's a fucking full-on predator.
He's an
Every
absolute
episode
predator.
has a little arc where it's like, I'm going to go question her
Yeah.
because she's smoking. And
Yeah.
he walks over and he's like, "Hi, I'm an FBI agent. Take off your pants." And it's weird.
He's an absolute predator.
He's an absolute predator. And I mean, no, yeah, it's not good. It's not good, and I think people give him the good looking excuse where he's like, "Oh well, he can't be a predator if he's ridiculously good looking."
So
And it's like,
handsome.
no, he is. No, he's still a
definitely-
predator.
Definitely a predator.
Still
Benjamin,
a predator.
the other funny thing about watching the finale and then the Scooby-Doo episode and then the pilot, I watched them in a weird order, is the pilot episode of Supernatural is so well formed. It came out of the oven ready.
Yes.
The characters are in place. Sam and Dean are the same people who've undergone this journey. there's no going back to the pilot and not recognizing things.
That's
Sometimes
good
you
way.
watch a show and you go back and you go, this is weird. This pilot episode is weird. Lots of things change between the pilot episode and where it ends up.
Yeah.
And of course, that's true in Supernatural as well. But it came out of the oven done. Ping, ready, delicious.
Chicken done, baby.
Ready to eat, Ben.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Sam is still a mopey moose.
Big
Dean
old
is a sexual predator. Have you seen the pilot recently, Ben?
I haven't, Michael. I haven't watched it.
It is an absolute great episode.
Look, seasons 1 to 5, they're magic, Michael, but we'll get to that in a second. That reminds me, Michael,
Go on.
of
What
another
did you want to
episode,
say?
because you brought on the Scooby-Doo episode.
Yes.
One of my favourite episodes is Hunter Heroici,
Go on.
which is season 8, episode 8. And Sam and Dean find themselves in a mental asylum where cartoon physics have taken over. People are dying in horrific cartoon physics ways.
Oh.
So what I mean by that is, you know, in the Looney Tunes where Bugs Bunny draws a hole in the ground and then the person falls through the hole in the ground that wasn't there before. So basically that kind of physics is taking over. So people are being, shot out of a cannon, but as soon as they leave the cartoon scenario, real world physics take over. So it leads to some really gory, horrific deaths.
Ugh.
And they're going around the asylum looking for the cause of this. And it's an older man who's kind of in a catatonic state, but he was an animator for the Looney Tunes. And he has a vendetta. And his kind of catatonic state has latent telepathic powers that are manifesting this bizarre kind of thing within the asylum. Michael, it's a bloody great episode.
I'll give it a watch, Ben.
With all the shenanigans you'd enjoy. Like, Sam is trying to be very logical, and Dean is having a ball. He's like, Sammy, look what I can do. And he draws a hole in the wall, and he puts his hand through the wall, and he pulls it out. He's like, it's a chicken, Sammy. And he's like pulling food out of nowhere. And it's just a great episode, because what it is it's like a crystallized form of their characters, where Dean is like, Dean, take this serious, or take it seriously. And Sam is just like, take it seriously, Dean. And Dean is like, no, this is amazing. This is the best thing that's ever happened. Do you think there's a hot nurse around? And yeah.
Was there a hot nurse?
There was.
Oh, good,
There
excellent.
was. Yeah.
And did he try and chat her up because he's an absolute sexual predator?
Because he's an absolute sexual predator. Yes, he did.
Benjamin, in the episode I watched, Faith, the season 1 episode, he leaves the hospital and says, "What's the point in dying, Sammy, in a hospital that doesn't even have any hot nurses?"
Yeah, perfect logic.
Absolute creep.
Perfect logic.
That's funny, Ben, actually, because the characters are so well maintained throughout the years, because that's one of the best things about the Scooby-Doo episode is how much Dean enjoys it.
Yeah, because he's just having banter.
Yeah, he sees Shaggy and Scooby making big giant sandwiches, and he joins them, and he extends his mouth open. He puts a big giant sandwich in, and one of the absolute comedy highlights is he says, with the big giant sandwich in his mouth, he says to Sam, "Sarah, look how big my mouth is." And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen on television. It's brilliant.
It's gold, and it's perfect, and those characters have remained incredibly consistent. And that's like big credit to Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki.
Speaking of, Ben, did you see the season 6 episode, The French Mistake?
No, I didn't. Go on.
The French Mistake, Ben, is another. I mean, even the writers and creators of the show, they say that their meta-referential episodes are their favourites.
Those are the winners.
And the Scooby-Dooby one is very meta, obviously. The one where the trickster sends them into television is very meta.
Oh yeah.
The one you've just mentioned is very meta, but the most meta one of all, Ben, is the one where they're teleported into a world where they are Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki.
Oh yeah, I do.
The actors on the TV show Supernatural. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant. And one of the highlights of it is the fact that Misha Collins is in it as Misha Collins.
Great.
So it's Misha Collins playing Castiel, playing Misha Collins, playing Castiel.
He keeps doing like weird live tweets.
He live tweets it, Ben. Yeah. And the funny thing is, he was live, they tweeted it when it was on.
Yeah.
The Misha Collins actually tweeted those tweets. It's the most meta thing that's ever happened. There's an absolutely brilliant scene where they meet Sam's wife. And as you know, Ben, Sam's wife was played by Genevieve Padalecki. who's his real life wife, and she played the second host that Ruby inhabited.
Ruby's second host.
Yeah, and there's a great moment where they meet her, and they're like, "You married fake Ruby, Sammy." It's brilliant.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's very good. It's a good
so.
show.
Look, there were many great episodes, Michael, and I would agree with the creators and yourself that a lot of the meta episodes are bloody great. But you know what I really loved, Michael, was seasons 1 and 2, because they scared the feckin' britches off me.
Yeah.
When I was 15, 16. They genuinely had such a sense of dread about them. And I really found them, on occasion, being like, oh, this is terrible news for Sam and Dean. I don't know if this is going to work out. One of the big ones was Yellow Eyes. He was a great character. He was a great villain for season 1 when demons weren't a foregone conclusion in the world of Supernatural.
Yeah. I mean, one of the issues that they have in a season, in any show that lasts 15 years, is the ever-escalating nature of the threats.
Yeah. And I just remember those early glorious seasons where the threats escalated, but in a very real sense. I love that, so the thing I'm talking about is Devil's Trap. It's the season 1 finale. Where the existence of demons is a rumor even among hunters. They're not sure that demons are an actual thing.
Yeah. And
they don't know if people actually go up against them. And if you do go up against them, it's bloody tough going. You might not make it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then you've got this big bad demon, and they have to beat him using a devil's trap. And it's a huge pentacle exorcism circle thing. And it's just a great episode. There's weird Western lore in the cult.
Yeah,
which
the cult
is
and the railways.
Yeah, so Samuel Colt, the man who built a large chunk of America's railway system, actually built it in the form of a giant devil's trap.
Delicious.
To trap particular demons inside. It's really interesting, like just from a lore point of view. And the things are really, really big. But one of my big favorite episodes that kind of marked the show out for me as something that had a lot of, not necessarily depth, but it had a seriousness to it, is Roadkill. Did you ever see the episode Roadkill?
Is that the one about the evil truck?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
Oh, that's Route 666, isn't it?
That's the episode where we see it from the point of view of one of the victims of a monster. And we get to know this character. The Winchesters pick her up in their car.
Oh, it's Trisha Helfer.
Yeah, and she's trying to recount her run-in with a spirit on the road. And they keep asking her questions. And it's a weird episode. It's unsettling because we're like, why are Sam and Dean so calm? Why isn't Dean hitting on this lady? What's going on? And we find out at the end of the episode that she is part of a 2-ghost scenario that's haunting this road and causing deaths for other people.
Yeah, Trisha Helfer was a ghost the whole time.
Trisha Helfer was a ghost the whole time. And for 16-year-old me, that was like, what?
Yeah,
man.
You're right. There are, I mean, the pilot episode, the Woman in White episode, is a great ghost episode. It's a real spooky ghost, and she's horrible, and she's gross, and they have to try and figure out a way to beat her. And the episode Faith as well, at season 1 episode 12, Ben, that's a great ghost story. Okay, It's not a ghost, it's a reaper, but same difference.
But you'd miss the ghosts.
Yeah, that's very much something that it loses in the later seasons, Ben. At what point where did you feel it sharked the jump?
It sharked the jump. Yeah. I actually typed that into Google earlier, and the crafty bastards over at Supernatural named an episode "Jump the Shark."
Oh yeah, they did.
And so if you look it up, it's 2009 according to canon. Where did it jump the gun? Or jump the shark? Sorry, jump the gun.
For me, Ben, it was Leviathans.
Oh, I think it jumped the gun a little bit earlier than that. But
I think. Bringing Sam back from his major sacrifice.
That was it for me.
I don't even remember.
Season 6.
Bringing Sam back from his major sacrifice was a big moment of, oh, you've kind of lessened it now.
Yeah.
But for me, what started my loss of interest was the Leviathans. They were the worst villains, the most boring metaphor for corporate America of greed.
Such a strange change of tone for the show as well.
And then they defeated angels. And I mean, the introduction of angels in season 4, Ben, was epic.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was one of the best things. Castiel's appearance in season 4, episode 1, Ben, was one of the most epic moments of the entire series.
Great opening line as well. My name is Castiel. I'm an angel of the Lord. And it's just, it's good. It
Is
works.
that his opening line? Did he not say, like, it was me who dragged you from perdition, Dean, you son of a bitch?
Does he not say that after he
I can't remember,
him?
Ben. I can't remember. I have to admit I didn't watch it. Doesn't matter.
Anyway, one of my favourite things from those early seasons, Michael, is how angels die. The big
Just
scorched
explode.
wing effect. No, because initially it was really cool. They had this huge scorched wings that you couldn't see. You could only see them in shadow because they didn't represent on this plane of existence. But they had a really cool effect. But obviously, budget got rid of that. But yeah, Leviathans, I think, was the real decline in quality of that show because they switched showrunners 3 times. Michael,
go on.
So the first showrunner was Eric Kripke, and he is
From The Boys.
From The Boys. So he's gone on to do great things, and that's why we're going to see Jensen Ackles in season 3 of The Boys, because they've remained firm friends. Jensen Ackles and Eric Kripke are bosom buds. And he left at the end of season 5. They originally thought they were getting 5 seasons. And so you're watching the series finale in season 5, the final episode, and then they tacked on a bit at the end because they found out that the CW was like, do you want to keep going?
Do you want to keep going? You could just have Sammy standing outside.
And they were like, oh yeah, let's bloody keep going. Let's do that. And then, so Eric Kripke kind of hangs on as a consultant until season 8. And then season 8 to 12 is a new showrunner. And then season 12 to 15 is 2 new showrunners again. It's interesting, Michael, that from season 12 to 15, you can markedly kind of taste that decline.
Oh, can you? Well, I haven't seen much of it. As I said, I've only
the
seen
Leviathans
the Scooby-Doo
are season 12, aren't they?
No, Leviathans were 7, I think, or maybe even
was
6.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I'm miles off.
The Leviathans came about, Ben, when Sam or Dean escaped from hell and they released them with them.
Yeah, Castiel. No, it's Castiel.
Yeah,
It's
Castiel
Castiel.
coming back brings the Leviathans.
He carries them in his body as icky gooey stuff.
Icky, inky things.
Yeah, that was real weird. And then Purgatory became the new place that Sam and Dean had to go.
Yeah.
And we lose Dean to Purgatory, and then he meets Benny the vampire, and that was a whole thing.
That was the whole thing, Ben. It was when I started losing interest, to be brutally honest. So I'm going to be at a bit of a loose end if you go down that route.
I'm not going to.
When
because
Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, so that's season 12, isn't it? Scooby-Doo is season 12. So
Scooby-Doo season 12, yeah.
That's what I'm mixing that up with in my brain. But yeah, okay, let's use Leviathans as our Michael and Benjamin's official benchmark for jumping the shark supernatural.
Well, it's where I kind of it's what I didn't enjoy. Obviously, later seasons, Ben, pick back up because if Leviathans were the beginning of the end, that was in season 7 or 6.
Yeah.
And it's gone on for another decade after that. So obviously things did improve. Having said that, Simpsons has been on a steady decline for 30 years and has no sign of ending.
Yeah, I mean, poor Simpsons. Alas, poor Simpsons, we knew them well. Michael, you said something interesting to me last week. You said that keeping the rights to a lot of the classic rock and roll from seasons 1 to 5 wasn't something they could manage to afford.
Yeah. So, for one thing, Ben, I imagine that a lot of these songs... So in episode 1, Ben... when they get in the car and they drive off in the end, they play almost the entirety of the song Back in Black. Back in Black! But that was in 2003, Ben. And in 2003, as Sammy says to Dean, 70s and 80s mullet rock was not popular.
Yeah, it wasn't, was it?
No. So for me, Ben, in 2003, I was passingly familiar with that kind of music. But Supernatural was my introduction to a lot of classic rock.
Yeah, me too.
And for most people, I think it was. And I don't think Supernatural was... I mean, Supernatural itself isn't popular enough, but it was part of the wave of bringing that kind of classic rock back into popular culture.
That and Iron Man.
Well, I mean, Supernatural was 5 years before Iron Man.
Fair.
But yes, Iron Man definitely. And I mean, if you told me that Jon Favreau didn't watch Supernatural, I would call you a liar.
And
because
a cook.
And a cook. Jon Favreau definitely watches Supernatural, or at least used to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of that music, obviously, was back then quite cheap.
Yeah, because it wasn't that big.
Because it wasn't that big. It was kind of at the end of its popularity. It would probably be like licensing mid-90s pop music now. I reckon we could probably get the licensing for Natalie and Bruglia's Torn to use on the podcast, Ben.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Nothing's right on Torn, Ben. But anyway, what was I talking about?
The shift in music.
Songs. So they have some amazing music in that first season. They have Wayward Son, obviously, which went on to be like the defining piece of music of the show. They have Back in Black. They have Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. Seasons Don't Fear the Reaper, Ben.
Yes, it's classic.
As a woman is running away from a reaper in a forest, and there's Seasons Don't Fear the Reaper. Brilliant, Ben. Absolutely brilliant, fitting use of music, which then became too expensive. And post season 5, I think they stopped using it essentially.
So they moved to a strange kind of. I define it as the 70s lounge singer kind of style of music, where you have. It's a little bit like a cheap porno as well. They use it because when Sammy and Dean go around the different motels and stuff, that's the kind of music they use for the Dean acquainting himself with the town montage. And that's the kind of music they use. And then post season 10 or so, they move to a way more orchestral score, and it becomes a very CW show with kind of an off-brand cinematic score. And it's just really interesting because you can chart the change of music with the change of tone throughout the TV series for me, which I find really interesting.
The funny thing, of course, Ben, is that in a lot of the older ones, for example, I've just been saying about that Back in Black, in some of the releases of the show, like on DVDs, on streaming services, the licenses to those songs, which are now back like at the top of popular culture popularity, are very expensive, and they're not all there. A lot of the earlier episodes, depending on where you're watching them, have had their songs replaced.
Gas.
Which is absolutely hilarious.
Not good. Not good. I might go, Michael, and watch season 1 again.
Ben, I cannot recommend season 1 of Supernatural enough. It is absolutely brilliant. The ghosty stories are really scary. The plot stories are really interesting and not overblown in their scope. It's a great season. Season 1 is an incredibly good season, and of course it is, Ben, because it has to be the foundation for the likes of a 15-year show to come off of.
To keep at it. To keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a great old show. Well done to the lads. 15 years. 15 long years. Yeah, they are the original kind of badass Ghostbusters. Good for them. Good for them. No, in fairness, I think I did put it out to the listeners there just to get a little bit. We didn't get much uptake, Michael. We got some decent uptake. And so a few people got in touch. I myself got in touch, Michael, with the podcast this week just to leave a little comment. And I said, I, for one, will miss all the homoerotic shenanigans. And I will.
You will. That's some of your favourite stuff.
Those are some of my favourites, Michael. But then, user, I want to get this right, Boba Loba, a great name. Congratulations. My favourite TV show of all time. What a ride it's been. Last series made me cry a few times. Carry On. So he was a hardcore fan. Irish Fashionista 777 said, love the show, love the characters, the crazy shenanigans, the music and the feels. Now need to find a new urban fantasy show to watch. And then,
it's not like there's a shortage of them, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it's bloody stacked out there, ladies and gentlemen. And then Peter from the Superior Comic Show got in touch with us and said, lads, I would have been a great guest, but I'm still catching up. So maybe in a year's time, Peter, we'll do a retrospective, and you can come on that one. It'll be good. So that's it from us, Michael, for this week. Do join us in 2 weeks' time. In a week's time. Not in 2 weeks'
next week,
time.
Ben. It's weekly. We do this every week, Ben. For 3 years, Ben.
Do join us in a week's time, where we'll be taking a look at anime's absolute fascination, bordering on fetish, for strange, medieval, post-medieval European settings and aesthetics. It's going to be bloody interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
Ben, can I talk about the Dark Souls series?
yes, you can talk about the Dark Souls series. Away
Sweet.
you go, Michael, and you enjoy that.
Sweet.
You
That's what
wallow
I'll do. That's what I'll do.
in some Dark Souls.
You try and stop me.
I probably won't, because it's a podcast where two people talk and share their ideas, and if I silence you, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Speaking of silencing us, ladies and gentlemen, please cut me off and get in touch with us and let us know what you think of that particular topic, or what you think of Supernatural. You can get in touch with us in lots of different bloody ways. We're there on the interwebs at www.seanrebuild.com.
It means Tiny Room in Irish. Benjamin, I'm going to have to update that website. I haven't updated it in months.
Sure, look, I'm not going to hold it against you. It's been COVID time.
Okay.
We can also find us there on the Instagram, which is at Sean Rebeag, SEOMRABEAG. And you can
Still
find
means
us.
Tiny Room in Irish, yeah.
It still means Tiny Room in Irish. That hasn't changed at all, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to pitch us an idea, if you would like to give us your 2 cents on anything we do, get in touch with us in those places. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd be so kind to leave us a review of some form anywhere that you listen to the podcast. It could be on the iTunes. It could be on the Google Podcasts. It could be on Amazon Podcasts, which I'm not sure we're on yet, but we should probably get on that. So you can leave us a review there, like a bunch of great lads.
Leave us a review.
That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, carry on.
Carry on. And if you have any Michael and Ben fan art, keep it to yourselves.
Yeah, don't want to see
or send it to Ben. Whatever's good.
Bye.